Welcome to New Way Aquaponic Farms. We're a teaching, learning, production, and research farm, and we teach kids and adults the application of STEM topics via aquaponics. We're in a building that was built in 1958. It was built by the Memphis Dairy Association. And what they wanted to do is they needed a place to test their milk and cheese products. So a place to test their milk and cheese products for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So they had a scale out here in our vacant lot.
Go ahead.
So a tanker truck would pull up on the scale and it would weigh the amount of milk and cheese products. And then in some of our test laboratories, the milk and cheese products would be tested for purity. And that's why the building was built. So come on, we'll take a look at residential aquaponics first that you guys can have at home. This is what it's all about. One man's poop is another man's food. And that's all that aquaponics does. So in aquaponics, these are goldfish. These are not the fish we use primarily. We mainly use tilapia that comes from the Nile River. Okay? But these are goldfish. I feed the goldfish, and what do the goldfish do? They poop. And I want the ammonia, the liquid ammonia in their poop every hour for 15 minutes. The ammonia is pumped up by this pump, and there's one in this tank too. It's pumped up to our grow bed. In our grow bed, we have these little clay stones, and you can't just be a recorder. You have to be a student too. The bacteria live here, and it poops nitrite. The second one is called nitrospira. It eats the nitrite and it poops nitrate. Nitrate ends up being plant food. The plants absorb the nitrate, return clean water back to the fish. So as you guys know, you've got to have filtration in all fish tanks, right? Mm-hmm. Or the fish will die. They can't live in their own waste. We can't live in toilets. It's just how it is. But I have no filtration here. We have a biofilter. And the biofilter is the bacteria that convert the waste, the plants that then consume the converted material, and then the water that's clean and it comes back to them. So I'm going to simulate what happens every hour for appetites.
Okay.
I just got out.
طيب السلام عليكم. شرح لنا الأستاذ ديرل عن طريقة المزرعة المائية أو الزراعة المائية، كيف إنهم هم يستخدموا فضلات السمك عشان يكون سماد إلى الزرعات اللي موجودة. فهو شرحها، بس أنا صراحة ما حفظت الشرح بالضبط إيش هو، بس شرح الأمونيا كيف يستفيدوا من عندها وكيف تتحول، والزرع كيف ينمو، وحاطين إضاءة صناعية مو إضاءة طبيعية. فإن شاء الله نوافيكم بعدين في كذا ملخصات مكتوبة مترجمة ومكتوبة عن الطريقة بالضبط كيف هي.
And clean water is returned back to the fish.
اوكي. المضخة تشتغل، تسحب الماء من هنا وتوديه فوق، والماء يتفلتر عن طريق هذه الأحجار، يتفلتر الماء وبعدين يرجع ينزل مرة ثانية مفلتر ونظيف. فهذه بعد ما شغل المضخة حقت الماء، فما يحتاج انه يحط جهاز للتنظيف هنا، لا هو يستخدم نفس السماد اللي الزرعة تستخدمه، فيصير تبادل مصادر. ومن البداية قال فضلات شخص طعام شخص آخر.
NH4, which is the ammonia. The first bacteria converts the NH3, NH4 to NO2, which is nitrite. The second bacteria then eats that and converts it to nitrate, which ends up being plant food. Just like you know, we hear of all the toxic blooms in water where there's all this algae in the water and the fish die off. Well, it's because of like chicken farms and pig farms. They have a lot of ammonia that ends up being turned into nitrate into the water. And algae, which is a plant, grows in the nitrate, takes all the oxygen out of the water. And what does it do? It kills the fish because they have to compete for the same oxygen. You can see he hasn't been eating all of his food
هذا زراعة مائية باتجاه واحد مو باتجاهين
It's a betta fish.
اللي زي الزراعة الأول.
And he eats his food. He poops liquid liquid ammonia goes up this wick. You see that white wick? And that's what gives moisture to the plant. Again, the bacteria live on the stone and convert it. But they don't return clean water back to the fish. So I've got to clean his tank about every 2 weeks.
هنا هو ينظف التانك حقه لأنه ما يرجع ما في الفلتريشن سيستم اللي في الباقين. هو يحط أكل للسمكة وبعدين يصعد الماء لفوق للحجر والحجر يصير فيه عليه النيترات اللي تستخدمها النبتة علشان تكبر.
So really, aquaponics to me falls under this category called permaculture. And all permaculture is how do things connect in the world? How do things connect in everything in life? So it's just connecting the dots. And it says here, we want to care for the planet, we want to care for the people, and that enables us to care for the future. We're all connected somehow. But we're not only connected as people, we're connected to the other animals, to the plants, to the water, to everything. And that's why permaculture is so important. Consumers throw it away, or it dies in the store. So that's a huge problem in the US, and it's a huge problem in the world. Why? Because as we all know, the world needs what? Water first, food second, yet we have all these starving people, and we throw away 40% of everything that's produced. So this is something that the government did. They said, look, there's a way to solve this. The first thing is to do source reduction. Don't buy as much. Don't grow as much. The next thing we should do, feed hungry people. Wouldn't that be nice if we could just feed people who are hungry without it being a big deal? The third thing, hey, there's a lot of animals here. We get cats, we get dogs, we get animals, and the first thing we do is we let them have babies, right? And then we just let them out there. But we need to feed animals and we need to control animal population.
طبعا هو هنا بدأ يشرح عن رسالتهم أو ليش الزراعة المائية مهمة. فهم يؤمنون إن كل شيء متصل ببعضه بطريقة أو بأخرى، إن العالم كله متصل ببعض، أي شيء أحد يسويه راح يأثر على الطرف الآخر. وهذا اللي يتكلم عنه لما كان يشرح، قال إن فضلات إنسان هي بتكون طعام إنسان آخر. تكلم عن الطريقة أو طريقة الفود ريكفري هيراركي أو تدرج إنقاذ مشكلة الفود ويست اللي هو الأكل أو عن إن في أمريكا 40% من الأكل ينرمي، سواء كان ينرمي في لسه يعني خرب ونرمى لسه ما انباع من خضار أو فواكه، أو إنه أصلا حتى بعد ما ينشرى ممكن إنه ينرمي. فقالوا إحنا كيف راح نحل هذه المشكلة؟ بيحلوا هذه المشكلة عن طريقة هرمية إنقاذ الطعام. فقالوا في البداية إنه لازم يقللوا من الإنتاج أول شيء، ثاني شيء لازم يطعموا الناس المحتاجة، ثالث شيء يطعموا الحيوانات، بعدين يستخدموا الأكل في الصناعة وإنتاج الطاقة، وأيضا يسووا سماد، رابع طريقة أو خامس خطوة، وآخر شيء اللي هو اللاندفيل، بعدين الباقي يرموه.
And we talked about it before when we looked at the goldfish tank. One man's poop is another man's food. And we think about it, you know, most of the oxygen that we breathe comes from trees and plants. And the trees and plants use CO2 as part of their their photosynthesis process. And they give off oxygen that we use to help us in our breathing process. And we exhale what? CO2. So it's that symbiotic relationship between us and plants. and everything in life. So one man's poop is truly another man's food. So what is aquaponics? It's the combination of two words or phrases. The first one comes from aquaculture, which means the raising or farming of fish. So the fish we use mostly in aquaponics in the US are tilapia, because tilapia is an old world fish. It comes from northern Africa and then started in what's known as cocoa coir, which is the coconut shell ground up, because it absorbs moisture very well. And we'll talk about why I grow in that in a minute. So aquaponics comes from raising a fish and growing in something other than soil. About how does hydroponics work? So there's three main components, and you saw them when you came in. The first is what? Fish. So the first is fish. So I raise fish, aquaculture. I feed the fish do what?
They poop.
They poop, and I'm looking for the liquid ammonia in their poop. Then bacteria will come and change the liquid ammonia into nitrate. Nitrate is another name for fertilizer or plant food.
From where you get the bacteria?
It's naturally occurring.
Okay.
So, and we'll talk about how I start a system when we go back and you see them. But essentially, I'll stop right now and tell you. So the bacteria are, as you know, there are trillions and trillions of bacteria everywhere. So they're great. They absorb it and clean the water or clear the water, and it goes back to the fish. So what's important? There are three things that are important. The first one is water and what's in it. As you guys know, for most municipal water systems, they have to put chlorine in the water so we don't get sick, right? But guess what? What chlorine kills? It kills microbes, but it would also kill my bacteria. Mm-hmm. So I've got to filter the water and take the chlorine out. So there's two ways to take the chlorine out. I have filtration. I use filters, mechanical filters. They take the chlorine out. Or there are other aquaponic farmers who just put a water in a big vat or reservoir, and chlorine will outgas in about 36 hours. So it takes it about 36 hours and it just evaporates in the air. Chlorine out because we don't want to kill the bacteria. The next thing that's important is the temperature of both the air and the water. Here in Memphis, a lot of people like our tomatoes that we grow here in Memphis. But tomatoes that are grown outside cannot be grown in the winter because it's too cold for the tomato plant. Same thing with me. I've got to keep my temperature in the building because I grow inside. I try to keep it between 65 degrees Fahrenheit and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is for not only for the plants and for the fish, but for the bacteria. The bacteria, when the temperature falls below 65 degrees, they lose 25% of their reproduction rate. And since they're so important to me and doing the conversion to help the plants grow well, I've got to really think about the bacterial life. Acidity. Mm-hmm. So if it's above 0 and less than 7, it's an acid. So let's do that in red. If it's above 7 and less than 14, it's an alkaline, or let's call it a base. Okay? So, two things that are very interesting. First fact, my plants love to absorb the nitrate when the pH, so plants like the pH to be between 6, 8, and 7, okay? So they like it just slightly acidic, just a little bit acidic. But this is interesting. Memphis is considered to have some of the best water in the world. That's right. It has a great taste and everything. But guess what? When you turn on your faucet, water, I have to add acid to the system to get the pH correct, to bring the pH from here down to there. And it's how everything combines. So this is my fish, this is my bacteria, this is my plants. I try to operate my aquaponic system right in here, where it's okay for the plants, it's okay for the bacteria, and it's okay for the fish. If I were to operate right here, it's great for the fish. That's the most important thing to do. But do I do that? No. Am I there all the time? No. So there are four, this is our last chart, and then we'll go out and see the rest. There are four types of systems. There's a media system, those are the ones you saw before, and it has those little stone clay pebbles in them, and they're called flood and drain systems because we flood the plant bed and it drains the water back into the fish tank. The next one is deep water culture, which I also have here. These are big rafts of lettuce and of other plants growing in it that's floating on big troughs of water. NFT, it looks like an upside down gutter, and there's plants and upside down gutters and the water runs below them. And then there's vertical towers. They have them at Crosstown. It almost looks like a tree with plants growing out of the tree. And that's what a vertical tower is. 25 or 30, we'll call them teenage tilapia in here. And I call them teenagers because they're about maybe 6 months old. Can you see them?
Yeah, but it's so hard to see.
Yeah, it's hard to see. Let's see if I might have a light, because the lights that I have here.
في سمك تلابيا هنا بس الإنارة شوية مو واضحة. هذا يعني هنا في عيان أو مكان تعليم بالنسبة لهم على طرق الأنظمة المختلفة في الزراعة المائية. الحين راح يورينا يشرح لنا في الطريقة.
I don't know if you can see them. They like to hang out down here. They don't like when we're above them. Most people think the pump is putting, let's see, yeah, it's on. The pump is putting water in this bed, so you can tell it's wet here.
قاعد يحط المضخة قاعد يحط ماي في هذا.
And this is where the bacteria live again.
والبكتيريا تعيش هنا.
So it's pumping the nitrated water here. When it gets to be a certain level, it'll start draining down automatically. And this will start floating on this. So this is cilantro, and this is dill right now, and this is basil. And this is kind of young plants here.
شبنت ريحان.
But this is coconut oil, and it's grounded
جوز هند.
coconut shells.
هذا قشر جوز الهند مطحون، وهنا أول خطوة في الزراعة، فهو يبدأ الزراعة في هذه النقطة، تبدأ تجذر الزرعة هنا. فلاحظوا ما يستخدم سماد، هذا مو سماد، هذا قشر جوز الهند مطحون، بس يستخدم بذور مدورة بهذا الشكل.
So most seed packages tell you to put multiple seeds in each start. I only use one seed because seeds are expensive, and these seeds have a germination rate, this one at 93%.
What that means?
It means that they guarantee that if I plant 100 seeds, 93 of them will start a plant.
Okay.
فهو يستخدم في كل فتحة بس بذرة واحدة، ونسبة احتمالية إنه تصير زرعة 93%. 20 جولاي، إحنا اليوم 11 أغسطس. اليوم 11 أغسطس.
And this is how, and what we do is we start them with a hood on top of them to keep the humidity up. And that allows it to really want to grow. And we only water it from the bottom. Because we want the root to grow down and the sprout to come up.
What about light? Is this white light?
So these are plant lights. These are fluorescent plant lights. And these lights stay on for 18 hours a day.
هذه الأنوار تبقى شغالة 18 ساعة في اليوم.
They act like sunlight, exactly. And we're going to talk about that because in sunlight, you know, sunlight is white, or it appears white to us. But it's really not. If you were to look at it, it's all the colors of the rainbow. Plants like lettuces and herbs, like red.
Yeah.
So that's the red spectrum light that allows the fruit to grow out. So although our eyes see white light, the plants see every spectrum of the rainbow.
فالشمس هي مجموعة من الألوان اللي هي ألوان قوس-قزح. فالزرعة في كل مرحلة من المراحل تحتاج لون معين من ألوان الشمس. فهم هنا هذه الإضاءة الصناعية تمثل اللون اللي تحتاجه الزرعة في كل مرحلة.
So I'm going to use the word wrong. This is a hydroponic system, meaning I have a breath, and I'll turn this one on for you so you can see how it works.
So what's this beside?
So this is what happened. My air conditioner on the roof went out for 6 days. I had strawberry plants in each one of these. Most of them died because the temperature got to 95 degrees. Remember we talked about air temperature being important? It was too hot for the strawberries. These plants survived. So I just turned this on. So what we should be seeing, let's see if we see what, you see the water coming out? So there's a pump in here. Water comes out to each one of these plants, like right here. Can you see it dripping into the strawberry plant? And if you were to just take one out to a plants all died. These are ones, I just noticed this flower. This flower was not here yesterday. This all happened in one day or 12 hours. So this will be a strawberry flower. And of course, as we know with flowers, right, they have the male and the female components. And generally it's bees or other insects that help to pollinate. So what I've got to do is I either have to do it with a Q-tip. I go for the male flower to the female flower.
التلقيح كان يتكلم عنها ان الذكر والانثى عاده يصير عمليه التلقيح عن طريق النحل.
Yellow sticky traps. So if you want to touch it, your finger will stick to it. Now, right? So the bugs like yellow. All bugs like yellow. They're attracted to yellow. So if you wear that yellow shirt with a lot of mosquitoes, guess what? They're all going to come to you. So we do have some little white flies and things like that, and they like yellow, so they stick to that. All right? Can you see the fish?
Wow.
Keep on going down because I'm getting ready to feed them. Ready? These guys get very aggressive when food comes.
I have to see this.
Oh my god.
دخلنا هنا الجزء الثاني من المزرعة وهذا مكان السمك. أحط لهم أكل. والله جوعني شكلي اليوم بتغدى سمك.
There are holes in the tubing. So because of physics and gravity, the weight of the water forces their poop in through this tubing. And it goes into what's known as a swirl filter. The swirl filter separates the solid poop from the liquid poop. So the solid poop will stay here and eventually go to the bottom of this reservoir here. The liquid poop, and I'm going to turn it on, I'm going to turn the pump on for you. Can you see the water coming out?
Oh yeah.
There's one of these on each one of these beds. This is basil. This is normal basil here. That is citrus basil. And this is mint. And this mint, I tried to kill it, but he came back, so it likes to do its own thing. This is purple basil.
Is there anything under here?
There is. And know what? You see how easier it is to grow in water versus growing in soil?
Yeah.
In soil, the roots can't get this long, right? Because they have to try to get through the soil. You'll see little white flies that like this, that like basil. So I've got to.
الحشرات تحب اللون الاصفر على سمر يمسك الحشرات هنا تحت وفوق. فما في استخدام لاي نوع من المواد الكيماويه او المضادات الحشريه.
Get stressed out, they don't eat well, they don't feel good, they get sick. So I scoop the fish out. I try to put no more than 2 at a time in here. And within 5 minutes, because they're out of water, and because of the cold of the ice, they die. And then people say they want the fish, I put some more ice in these coolers, put the fish in there, put some ice on top, then I give them the whole cooler, they drink it in the cooler back. So that's how we dispatch the fish.
ما يستخدمه فيحتاجوه المزارعين كسماد فهو يعبيه هنا بقلنات ويبيعه فياخذوا ما في ولا شيء يروح السمك لما $2 يبيع السمك $5 فكل شيء يعني يستفيد من عنده ما في ولا شيء يروح.
So what I do is, getting back to what you were saying, potassium carbonate or calcium carbonate. I'll add this to that to my system. Cannot harm any of the 3 major components.
هذا الجهاز اللي يقيس نسبة حموية وحامضية الماء وفي هناك الكيماويات اللي هو ممكن يضيفها طبعا هو ما يضيفها هنا على السمك هو يضيفها هنا هذا الماء اللي بيروح بالزيت.
Days and it'll get much bigger. And I sell it in a clamshell as living lettuce. I just pull it out, wrap the roots around the seed pod, and it stays, because I sell it as living lettuce and put it in a clamshell, it'll last for 3 weeks in the refrigerator if you slow eat the lettuce. I've worked in big corporations for all my life. And God put in my heart that I needed to look at food insecurity amongst people who do not have the means to get healthy food. So I started in soil farming, and that didn't work out for me, and I found aquaponics. And then I saw there's the educational piece of it, to teach kids how to apply all these mathematics and science and engineering things they learn in school via aquaponics, because everything we do here is science. It's just science. I mean, I've got to understand if my light has certain spectrums of light in order to get the strawberries to grow. If not, I'll never get a strawberry. These guys don't only need blue spectrum light, so I can keep my costs down with the lights I use here. Notice all my lights move. You notice the fans, they oscillate. You saw this simulated outage. So there are 4 air stones here, one here, one here, one there, one there, one there. Can you see the bubbles coming up? So if we were to have an outage, guess what? So look what happens. They turned off, but I have a backup generator that works off of a battery, and it will last for at least 7 hours, which is enough time for someone to come in and get power in here. And then when the power comes back on, automatically,
هذه طريقة
it'll switch back.
انقطاع الكهرباء
But that's to keep fish alive. I don't have it with the plants. So the plants have their air. You can see the bubbles here. Can you see the air stones? So that helps them for the roots to get the oxygen that they need. So it's all about oxygen. Everything needs oxygen, which is normally iceberg lettuce, right? Mm-hmm. Iceberg lettuce is this big head of lettuce. It's 80% water. It has been grown in Florida or California, and it has to be trucked here to Memphis. By the time it reaches Memphis, it's probably 10 to 12 days old. It is on its last leg when you buy it.
Yeah.
It's dead. It's ready to expire. Versus this, right? Here it is. When I sell this at the farmer's market, I come in the, let's see if I got one that's ready to go. Oh, we can do this one. Let's do a lettuce, the way I would harvest the lettuce. This is how I harvest in the dimpled container. I close the container, I get all the leaves to the in here. And this is what I sell at the farmer's market.
And the clothes stay for 2 weeks.
It will last for up to 3 weeks. So you don't have the video for free to my schools, but if they want systems or if they want me to help them facilitate the video, that's when they'll pay me. But I'm trying to get the grant that will pay for the actual production of the video.
Okay.